You can waste years trying to figure leadership out on your own, years falling behind, years not knowing why you aren't getting the results you expect. Nowadays, there's more leadership content than ever, and most firefighters and officers are drowning in it and still not making progress. That's why we created the Fireground Company membership. This membership isn't for everyone. It's for firefighters and officers who refuse to be average. Once you join, you gain access to the Insider Podcast, Leadership Q&A, where we answer the questions you submit to us, discussion feeds, private resources, exclusive discounts, and more. Right now, we have a founding member discount for the first 50 members to join. Visit firegroundcompany.com before this offer is gone.
On today's episode of the Fireground Company podcast, we break down 3 fires that exposed mistakes and the lessons that will keep them from happening again.
The Fireground Company podcast.
All right, so I think we learned something from every fire we go to, or we should be learning something from every fire we go to. Almost every call we go to, there's a little something we can take away, do a little better. But when you get going at the table in the morning and we're talking to firefighters and we're recalling things, or even on drills when we're talking about very specific things that have come up, there's a couple of fires that come up more than other ones. And I think that's because they stand out, or they were crystal clear, or they made something clear to you. And I've heard about these fires and many times as we've, been through the years, and we've told these stories a few times, but
even you're at 2 of them. So.
Yeah. And I agree with you. They were clarifying moments, either because they brought something to our attention, or it was that thing where it was like solidified something we were already thinking. But there's a couple of these fires that, we talk a lot about some of the fires we've been to and try to relay some of the experience that we gained from them to younger members and members on our crew and stuff. But there's a few fires that come up more often than others. And I think that's what we want to talk about today.
Yeah, these are 3 fires that I think crystallized how I see hoseline deployment. And I know the last podcast we were talking about garden apartment fires, the good and the bad, and a lot of those thoughts from the last podcast about garden apartment hoseline deployments came from these 3, screw ups, 3 things that you walked away from. You walked away from this fire saying to yourself that I don't want to do that again. How do I not do that again? And these stick out for me, where it really made me think about what do we do and why do we do it and how can we get better? So I guess I'll just jump into them. First one was years back. I was a rookie in another department, and we were, it's, I don't know, I'll give you a little backstory. Maybe it'll be interesting or whatever. But rookie at another department, I'm sitting there at call it the watch desk, and you're ready to answer the phones and everything else. And there's a thing, I don't know if it's a thing now, but a thing in that department where if you had a friend of someone that was in that firehouse, and they were another part of the city, they would call you on the phone to let you pre-alert you, because there was like pending boxes or incidents on the computer. So if you didn't see it, you would hook up someone else you knew on the other side of the city, and there was a pending box where they said, it's like they just call you on the phone and they say, hey, this is the address. They give you the address, whatever it is, boom. And then you get on the PA, say that box, give them the address, and then everyone jumps in the rig and you start going down, out the door. And then usually it gives you a couple seconds and the dispatch comes out. So anyway, that's what happened. So a lot of adrenaline going, fired up. It's probably going to be my first fire on the line there as a rookie. And we can see a column of smoke as we turn out. And it's like right around the corner from the firehouse, like a block or 2 away. And the thought was, based on what the information was, plus what we could see, the thought was that the fire was in the backyard in a detached like a garage. This is a group of row houses. So there really wasn't an easy way to get to Side Charlie. So based on where the smoke was coming from as we're turning onto the street, we think it's back there in the garage. So the plan going down the street, we're laying out. The driver basically says, hey, look, we have a 300-foot line. He's just like, pull the 300, go through the house and go to the backyard, and then you can put the garage fire out, because that's what we thought. So like, okay, cool. I got that. So laying out, going down the block. By the time we get in front of the house, we like the angle we had, we can't see any smoke, which is, it's like, darn it. And I wasn't sure. I forgot the address, or I didn't even think about it, all the adrenaline going and everything else. So I get out, pull the shoulder load, and I'm looking at the houses. I don't even know the row houses. I don't even know which one it is. So the driver's coming around the corner, and I was like, which one? And he's like looking, and I could tell he didn't even know 100%, but he guessed right. He's like, that one. Yeah. Okay. All right. So it's 300-foot line, shoulder load, all this hose. I go up the steps, go through the front door, and these are small row houses. These are not big row houses. So picture a small row house, and it has, normal furniture, coffee table, all that. So there's not much open space. Go right through the front door, and I can see all the way through the house to the back door. It's like a straight shot. There's like an old man kind of between me and the kitchen, and I see in the background behind him, there's debris from fire that was on fire just falling to the ground, like through the glass of the back door, just coming down. I'm like, okay. So something's not right. And then the guy just kind of looks at me. We look at each other, our eyes lock, and I think he had a cane too. It's just kind of a surreal thing. And he just slowly points, and it's upstairs. And I'm like, all right, it's upstairs. Okay. So I don't really have any moves for this, man. I got nothing I've prepared for or been trained on. So what do? I drop 100 feet of hose in probably this just less than 6 foot by 6 foot space. It just on the ground. I just drop it and I throw it in different directions. There's flake out. It's terrible. You can hear the other engines coming. And I don't even know, and this is the other part that's so weird when you think about stress, why you do things. I don't even know exactly why I did this, but I take the nozzle, it's not charged. I start going up the steps, and I can see at the top of the steps, it's dark. So in my head, just so stupid, like, oh, the lights are off. Why are the lights off up here? I mean, obviously, it's like, because there's a fire, dude, and there's smoke. But like, I don't know what I was thinking, man. I was like I said, rookie, stressed out, whatever. So I go up there and thinking I'm going to get closer to it or something, and then mask up. I go, and man, I just go right into this like blackish, dark gray smoke, and I just take a mouthful, man, just to feed on that smoke. And I just remember the pain was so bad. It felt, I always describe it as if someone just had a handful of, little needles and just stabbed you in the back of the throat, man. It just hurt so bad. So now that happens, I realize I'm an idiot. I back down the steps. Now I'm just really off my game. The officer shows up and he says, hey, they're coming, man. They're going to steal your fire by us. I'm like, oh no. So I'm trying to mask up and I'm fumbling with my mask, and I was like, my gloves, I had my gloves on, but then I screw my mask up so bad. I got to take my gloves off. I got to fix that. I'm trying to get my helmet on. Put my gloves back on. And, other guys from my company come in, and they're trying to pull hose out and get stuff flaked out. And there's a bunch of other stuff happening that I'll tell you about that I didn't even realize. So I'm just in the midst of this world of my own disaster that I created somewhat. So, we get the line charged. Don't bleed it because I'm on the steps, and I'm just going down the hallway. I know that it's towards the back of the house, just total blackout conditions. We're going down the hallway, and I see, flashes of like little orange kind of like above me, like just faint orange. And I kind of knew what that meant. I mean, now I know that was really, really bad. Really, really bad. I open the nozzle up. like I should, and it flows for maybe about 2-3 seconds and just loss of water pressure. Just line goes limp. I'm like, this isn't good. So officer's behind me, and I think I try it again, same thing, and then I turn back towards him and I say, hey, there's no pressure in the line. So I'm like, okay. He's like, okay. And I don't know. I think he relayed that on the radio. I guess he had to. It's been a while. I'm trying to remember everything. But yeah, he relays that on the radio. So I'm basically sitting there. I'm seeing these, like I said, still every once in a while, every few seconds, like just a faint flash of orange kind of above me and to my side. And, obviously the clock is ticking, man. And of course, it's all flashed over and we're just in it. Stupid as I was doing all this. And what I didn't know is the driver's outside, and that fire department, their top pressure they're supposed to charge lines at was 300. He says, I never, to this day, I don't know what he charged it, like the pressure he gave. And he says it was well over 300. And this was a 1.5-inch line, 300 feet. So, and it was, I think the nozzle, I want to say it was maybe like 150 GPM, maybe something like that. So anyway, so yeah, I guess all the other stuff's happening. The battalion aide, because the battalion chief's at our house, I guess the chief sent him in. He's pulling line out and everything. They're all pulling line out to help us out. So I finally open the nozzle up again, get water back in the nozzle, and make my way to the back, knocking fire down, get to the back. And it was the way in the city, they have a lot of these back porches that they kind of turn into these, I guess, probably not permitted, like little rooms. And that's what caught on fire. And they're not built well. They're like a deck, maybe at best. And as we get in there, and it had been burning for a while, plus it was probably a little dilapidated, like my foot kind of goes through the floor. So I'm like, oh, wow, this is, this is what they talk about. I'm like, okay, so knock the fire down. And then it's just funny rookie stuff because there's a ladder that gets thrown up on the backside. And then I hear the guy on the truck coming up. He's like, hey, don't hit me with the nozzle, man. Don't flow water on me. And I'm like, okay. I'm just happy I put the fire out and everything went well. So it was just one of those, like, what just happened? Everything happened so fast, and you just kind of, so you think back after the fact, like, what happened? What went wrong? And it was, I mean, where do we go from here? Like, I was only a rookie, so there's only so much I can do because there's an officer component to this. There's what I could have done. At the time, I had never seen, and this is almost 20 years ago. Like, I didn't know anything about the coil. I know a lot of people know how to do the coil. I didn't have that tool, man. I didn't know. That would have been the move. There really wasn't much move there, but I probably could have pushed the coffee table out of the way, done a coil right there in the living room, and we could have made that work. But I had nothing, man. And I just threw it on the ground and just started throwing hose everywhere. And, as we talked about, we know that doesn't work too well, right?
Yeah.
Luckily, the guys helped me out. And then I put myself in such a bad spot, just the adrenaline going up the steps and taking that feed like an idiot. And, basically being in a countdown to flash over and not have water, it was just like, what in the world? So I think about it, and what I probably should have done is, as hard as the inertia of trying to get to the fire and put it out, I probably, since I didn't know the coil, didn't have any other moves, I probably should have just walked right back outside and said, hey, the fire's upstairs. I got to flake the line out here. And then just flaked it out outside, took the time I needed to get that right, got it charged, and then moved it in. But the pressure of the situation, everything else, man, just kind of pushed me in that direction. And I went with it. I didn't resist it. I just went with the flow. And I guess years later, thinking about it, it could have cost me significantly. So what I realized is you got to have a plan for a worst case scenario with your hose deployments. And at the time, I really didn't know, just didn't know where to go with that. But as years went on, saw the coil, I was like, okay, so that's something that I can add to the abilities and skills I have and be ready with that. And then pass that on to the other firefighters. Hey, your last resort is this, man, if you don't have much space. Or worst case scenario, like I said, just walk out of there and redo it. Take the time to get the line right. But, now as an officer, if we show up on something like that, or we're not sure of the building for sure, it could be this row house or that row house. We're not sure exactly where it is. What I could do is I could say, hey man, hold up, stay right here, the nozzle man. Let me go and check this and just peek my head in and make sure it's actually where we think it is, that we're going to go through the building. And if that was the case, I would have figured out, if I was the officer in that situation and knew all this and could replay it, like, oh, it's upstairs. So I probably could just say, hey, drop that 300. We're going to pull the 2. We're good to go. And we've done that before now, where we did that somewhat recently, where I was like, drop that. It's a different location. We're going to pull a different line. Yep. So that was those are the points that started, I guess, me thinking about some of this stuff, not necessarily with all the answers yet.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
Because I know as you gain more experience, that I think as your career went on, that experience of that fire, obviously that sat with you right away, because there's a ton of adrenaline, a lot of things going on, a lot of things went wrong. And so over time, you probably were able to process that through the lens of experience and, oh man, it happened again. I'm learning tools now to fix that. What did you do as a rookie, like the next week, the next month after that fire? How did you process it? What did you tell yourself? What was your sort of internal, dialogue about that?
I just, I knew something was wrong. I knew I could do something different, but I didn't know what, and I didn't know really where to turn. And no one gave me any, like I said, at the time, the coil really wasn't a big thing. So, at least the people around me, no one said, hey, that's what you should have done. It was kind of an accepted screw up. Mm-hmm. Like we screwed up. The stuff I really focused on that hit hard was going up and, breathing that smoke like an idiot. I guess my takeaway from that is I was looking at, man, you need to slow down and chill out. Like, don't do stupid things like that. Just pump the brakes, take a second. Don't go too far before masking up. Get better with your masking up skills. Cause I was flustered. You practice this stuff, tons of times, man. Just practicing like masking up with gloves on and all this other stuff. But you add just a little bit of pressure in the real world, and it just seemed like I fumbled with everything. So I just really focused on that because I thought that was something I could control. I can control the gloves. I could control masking up. And this was just everything was set up against me. There's no way to overcome that as a rookie is what I thought.
Did you ever get full pressure in that line?
It felt like it.
I would say that must've been hot.
It felt like it, but
you're probably eating it.
No, I don't think so, because there's so many kinks it was overcoming.
So it never really got.
It felt normal.
Okay,
it felt normal,
but it never
felt
got
normal. It never felt like it was more than normal. And I mean, they were pumping it super high. I mean, the other thing that I found out after the fact, and that all lines up with how bad it really was and how we were committed way too far with a issue with a loss of order, is the driver also said in the midst of all that truck, it was like a little, I guess, porch on the front. So there's like this little, like 1-story part of the roof that sticks out. So they threw a ladder that climbed up there to the second floor windows, and they smashed out the windows. And he said when they smashed the windows out, he said just black smoke poured out like cotton candy, just like getting it. So it was like I said, it was a bad spot, man.
Looking back, I mean, obviously you look at what your role was in that fire, and you were a rookie, not to, Monday morning quarterback or anything, but as now you're an officer, is there anything the officer could have done differently on that call to make things go better? I mean, you mentioned you didn't have some of the tools and techniques that you have now. So it's not like he could have said, do this or do this, but it seems in that story, the officer was kind of absent for a little bit of it.
Yeah. I mean, that fire department has a little bit of a culture where it's the drivers are very influential and powerful, and know the areas, make the plans up and stuff like that. I mean, some of the officers, they had they come with a very strong personality and everything else. But um, yeah, I think about that. Like I said, maybe just as an officer, figure out exactly where you're going before you commit. I mean, I always go back to there's always this balance, right? You don't want to be slow, but you don't want to be so fast that you're screwing stuff up. And that pace constantly changes, right? It's never, sometimes you're moving quick and it makes sense because everything is, there's nothing you really have to watch out for right now. But then at a certain point, you have to slow down because now there's stuff you have to watch out. There's stuff you have to size up. There's stuff you have to process. So even during, an incident in and of itself, you could kind of go up and down where you're going faster, then slower, then faster. And I don't know. To me, as the years have gone by, especially as an officer, I've realized that's something that I have to be aware of because we do want to be aggressively getting the job done, but we don't want to be so aggressive that we miss important things or make the job actually harder to accomplish for ourselves. And then if we're, the people we're trying to help, get them out of the fire building or put the fire out or get a line between them and the fire. So yeah, I think what I realized is, thinking about that is, just as an officer, sometimes you got to say, hey, stop, pump the brakes, which I guess bringing that up, I was just thinking about the next fire and that was something I did right, but then I did other stuff wrong. So,
All right. Before we move on to that next fire, I have one more question.
Yeah.
And it might come out a little clumsy. So work
That's
with me
fine.
here and try to understand what the actual question is. And it's this. I'm trying to process this for myself too and think, okay, how do I recognize this? And how do I take this story and the stories of the other fires that we're going to talk about and take it from this specific scenario, right? Because I think in training, we do that a lot.
Mhm.
We think this specific scenario. Okay, so what you're talking about is a row house with an addition and you didn't know where the fire was at first and then you find it, right? But what were the takeaways in terms of principles that you can extract out of this and apply anywhere? Like, is it you need to slow down when you don't know exactly where the fire is? Is it, you talked a little bit about the line placement, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how do we take these from scenarios to principles?
Yeah. I guess, I think now the way I look at it is I got to take a second at every fork in the road, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So there's always, as you progress through an incident, a lot of times there's these forks in the road, right? So we get off there, like back to that incident, we get off, we're not sure where the fire is. Is it this house? Or is it that house? So that's the fork in the road. So a decision needs to be made there. What do we do now? Do we commit to one or do we just wait here and then one of us kind of takes a look and recons it? That's the right decision. Stop, take a second, recon it, right? That's the fork in the road. And then, I mean, the other one is part of it, but I guess figuring out, is it the house or is it a detached garage? Because now that's, again, another fork in the road with the line. Do we roll with the line we have or do we pull a different line? So I guess it seems like there's these natural decision points during an incident and you can feel them as time goes on with a little experience. If you really pay attention, when you get to that decision point, that fork in the road, you got to think about, do I make a decision that I start going down a path or do I gather more information? I guess is the principle. I think that makes sense. Do I commit to a decision or do I need to gain more information? Is kind of, I think, the two choices that constantly come up. And maybe there's a third one, I guess, also where I can kind of commit to one, but not 100% because I'm still trying to gather some information. So I commit in a direction, but I still have alternate options and I just need to gain a little more information. So I guess there's kind of those three. I guess that would be the principle, maybe. You think? Can we flush that out?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I'm just always trying to grasp these things in a way where I can transplant it from one incident to another to the point where it's basic enough that it triggers in your mind, you know. And I think part of it is training your composure on incidents so that you aren't just so again, it's back and forth the whole time, right? Like this is a job where you have to be action forward. You know? You have to be what do they say, default aggressive, right? And I believe that is absolutely true. You do have to be default aggressive, but in this scenario, I mean, you think about how many things could have gone better if there would have just been a better decision at that critical moment that you mentioned, the fork in the road. So it's kind of this balance of gaining the composure to be sort of always moving in a direction, but knowing when that direction is a decision point, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of, again, back to you're speeding up, you're slowing down, you're speeding up, you're slowing down. You're going as fast as you reasonably can without overcommitting, you know?
Right.
Until you have a reasonably good idea that that's the direction you need to go down. Because a lot of times we don't know 100%, right? We're pretty sure, but there's just some things we just can't account for, right?
Right.
So, moving on to the next one.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
All right. So the next one was with you.
All right.
And you were driving, and there's a funny part because, well, I guess let's set the stage a little. So call comes out. I think it was about a change of shift, and
Yes,
that kind of created an issue because we had at least one of the guys on the crew on the back step, the nozzleman, was from the other shift. He was a newer guy, jumped on. Call comes out, and it was one of those addresses where it's close. Like if everything lines up and, you know, we get all the green lights and everything works out, we get out the door, maybe we'll be first, probably not, but you have a shot. So address comes out, and then I'm starting to read the notes and the dispatch information, but it was really, I remember it was buried in the notes. There was a line in there, and it said, it had the actual address, which was the dispatched address they gave us. But in the notes, it says callers calling from this address sees it across from.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't relayed over, like verbally, over the rebroadcast when we were going down the road. And I said something to you where I was like, this address may not be right. It's going to be somewhere around there, but it's not necessarily going to be the one we think it is. And no one said that on the radio. We were the second due engine. So I was kind of ready for like, okay, water supply, what are they going to do? And originally they said, I can't remember, what was it? They weren't going to take their own water, but they said they were going to lay out or get a line back to the hydrant.
That's right.
Whatever they called out. So, and at the last minute, they show up and they realize that it's not the dispatched address. It's another one that's like next to it. So then we show up and we're going to the hydrant that they needed to use for their water supply. And there's a cop, right? Sitting on the hydrant.
Yeah.
Sitting on the hydrant. And I remember, man, hitting the air horn so loud, like just as hard as I could. It was so loud. I mean, because you see it's fire. It's like fire, top floor's on fire. It's getting it, man, garden apartment. And just hitting that horn so loud. And I remember thinking in my head, I was like, we may push this out of the way. I think, I can't remember if I even said that out loud or I told you after the fact, but that was definitely being considered. We were going to push the cop car out of the way. And we had a good deputy chief at the time, good assistant chief.
Yeah,
and I
would have support for that.
Yes, I know I could have easily justified it and we would be good to go. But at the last minute, the cop comes running over and pulls the car out of the way. And I kind of wish we got to do that.
Me too.
It would have been fun.
I really wish.
Yeah. Anyway, they get it out of the way. We pull up, we jump out and, go over to the other engine. You're dealing with water supply stuff. And we go over the other engine and we pull another line. And I can't remember what line was what we pulled at the time, because it's been a while now. And it's funny because I did say to the guy on the line, I said, hey, stop at the front door, keep the shoulder load on your shoulder. I'm going to take a look around side Charlie. Because it was like a group of garden apartments, but there was like a way I could get around to like look. So I wanted to because there was a lot of fire, but I couldn't tell exactly what was happening from, again, the angle that we had, like ground level. So I go around the corner. I'm like, okay, it's getting it. It's pretty much where I think it is. All right, this makes sense. The first engine had deployed their line inside the stairwell, had it charged. And these apartments, the weird thing about them is the top floor garden apartments are 2-story units. So you go in and then you have to kind of go down a little like hallway, and then you have to go up a set of stairs. And then the bulk of the fire was on that second story of the top floor apartment. So there was a lot of line maneuver that had to take place. The deployment that they had wasn't the greatest. There was a lot of line that wasn't flaked out properly and charged. So, we go open the door, and I can't remember exactly the timeline, but what happened, but I remember they want us to check the floor below. So I think I forced the door because I had my Halligan, checked that real quick. There was nothing. And then told the guy that was on having the guy that had the shoulder load, I told him to deploy the hose up to the top floor apartment because we were going to support them because there was a significant amount of fire, and there was basically like these knee walls, void spaces that they had fire in. So there was a lot of work to be done up there. So he does that. And then I realized that was kind of a mistake. And I didn't have a plan for this, man. And I realized that we'd been getting away with this. So we deploy the line on top of theirs uncharged. And he doesn't really do a great job flaking it out. We didn't teach a skill like this in the academy, how to deal with this. And even on the street, we weren't really doing much with this as far as trying to teach people or figure it out. We were just getting away with it. So that line gets charged. So now both lines are charged. They're intertwined, and really at the base of the common stairwell, there's a pile of hose all on top of itself. He's up there with the nozzle. I'm trying to get this hose moving, both lines, and I'm like moving hose and pushing it and doing everything I can. And you know how when you're trying to do all that, man, you are just expending energy at such a high level, and you almost don't even realize it, where it just hits you all of a sudden, and you feel that muscle fatigue where you can't almost move. Your arms are, I'm trying mentally as hard as I can to move my arms, but everything's starting to max out where that wall comes quick, and you're like, oh no. And I had this thought where, dude, we may have to shut a line down to figure this out. I mean, this is not good, man. They're calling for more line on the first one to try and get it in the right place to put the fire out. We were trying to get ours there to help them, and it's all tangled up. And I just had this feeling. I was like, we're going to be doomed, man. I'm trying. And right at that moment, you show up in all your gear, SCBA and everything. And I'm like, thank goodness. And I guess what happened is, I mean, you can tell the part of it.
Yeah, it's actually there's a funny backstory to that too, because, back to the water supply situation, everything kind of got mixed around when we realized the address wasn't the same. So we basically had two engines at one hydrant, and then there was the first two engine kind of pulled into a little parking lot area, and I was on sort of the main street, but we're basically essentially equidistant from this hydrant. And I run up to the driver, and he was kind of looking at me like, hey, are you going to get the water supply? And I was like, dude, you're right here. You're first due. You can take your own water. And so I was like, I can help you, So we start, pulling his intake and whatever. And I was like, basically at a certain point, I was like, this is silly. You got this?
Yeah.
He's like, I got it. So I was like, all right, cool. So I ran back to the engine, started throwing all my gear on, and I get dressed. I walk up to the front, and I remember thinking, like, as soon as I walked up, I was like, oh,
it was bad.
Yeah. And that's when I saw you, and you had this look that said, oh,
this is real bad. Yeah.
And then it was like, all right, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, you showed up at the perfect time, because I don't know. I don't think I could have gotten that done by myself. I think I was pretty much I hit the wall. I don't know if anyone else would have showed up. So you showed up at the perfect time to get it done. And we started working together, and it's still, even the both of us working on it. I know I still thought we may not get this untangled. Yeah. And it was like a Rubik's Cube that we accidentally solved, because all of a sudden the line flopped a certain way, and it was like, oh,
exactly how it went down.
It's good. We can move the line, So we started moving it, got everything that, got the line where it needed to go, and put the fire out. And I guess they did a good job on the two nozzles and got it done. So yeah. So then that's, walk away from that, and I'm just, man, dude, that's what is going on? What happened? This can't happen again. Now I'm an officer years later. I was like, I got to figure this out. So I started to think about, what happened is I had no plan. Like if we did it all over again in that moment, I don't really know what I would have done differently. So it took a little, thinking about it, or I was like, what? We don't really have a tactic or great tactic for deploying dry hose on stairs. We just kind of do it and hope for the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't think about anything. We don't talk about any key points to remember. We just do it, hope for the best, and we're good to go. So that obviously didn't work, and it's not working. So I started to think about, this is a very common situation. We have a ton of garden apartments, probably almost everywhere in the country does. So we have to have a plan for this. And then that's when I start to think about, man, stairs are a trap, dude. Every time we go in there, there's problems. Not that we should be scared of it, but we should realize there's a lot of stuff that can get us screwed up in there. So we got to respect it, and we have to know exactly what we want to do. So then that kind of morphed into if we can deploy the hose outside, why don't we just do that? Let's deploy the hose outside. And if we're only going up 2 stories, which you talked about in the last podcast, and we can deploy it outside and move it up that way. And then the other stuff that we talked about previously, where if we're going to take the shoulder load in, we should know how many floors up that's going to get us, what's going to hang us up, what do we need to watch for, all that kind of stuff. So really start to dive in that, figure that out. And then on top of that, if you have someone that you don't work with, you don't, especially if they're new, but even if they've been around, you don't know exactly what they're going to do sometimes and the skills they have. It's sad to say, but a lot of people don't have great skills as far as deploying hose line. So you need a fail-safe way of deploying the hose line no matter what. And that became the whole, well, if I have them deployed on the outside, we could just make some big U's out of it. And I can just tell them to grab that nozzle, and they can just walk up the stairs and feed it to them. And that's really hard to screw up. So that basically became one of our moves, where if we are going to take hose into the stairwell, that's how we're going to do it. Or if they deploy the line, but I wanted them, because that could happen too. They deploy the line before I told them to do anything, and it's outside, and I really wanted them to keep it on their shoulder so we could walk up with it. Well, what do we do now? We got to figure something out. So that's an easy way to solve that problem. So that's when that started to come together. And then we went out and we're practicing it at buildings, and you remember all that. Mm-hmm. We tried it, made sure it worked, and just walked through it a whole bunch of times. So, I mean, that was a good mistake, I guess, in the sense that it didn't cost us anything aside from some extra, work. And we walked away after the fact looking into what we could change, figured something out, and then went from there and did it. And now finally had a plan of what we can do in those situations and be more successful. So, I mean, that's kind of the takeaway from that.
Yeah, that fire comes up a lot.
Yeah.
I think we see that problem repeat so many times, maybe not as dramatically as that one. I mean, trying to paint a picture here on, a podcast, but when people say, you've probably heard the term spaghetti, it actually looked like a bowl of spaghetti. It was a mess. So, and when we try to tell people and give them an image of what can happen when you're not very precise with your line deployment, it can lead to problems.
Yeah. And again, that's also the other thing I was thinking about it is I really started to understand, like, use your open space, man.
Yes.
Find open space and use it. And it's usually going to be outside. Use open space.
Yeah. So I like that because, again, I'm always looking for these things that are going to pop into my mind when in the heat of the moment. And so stairs are a trap, and find open space. Yeah. Those are two good takeaways if you had to really boil it down from that fire. And also, if I remember correctly, the rescue parked in the way on that one somehow.
Yes, it's our little shot. I think they blocked out the truck a little bit.
They did
from where they needed to be.
That's a different conversation, though.
Yeah, but a good shot to get in no matter what.
Cops were in the way. The
Cops and the
rescue was
rescue.
in the way.
Doesn't get any better than that. Cops and the rescue get in the way. Perfect.
Another kind of funny part of that I'll mention just in case this person is listening. But so you mentioned that the guy from the other crew got on the back step. Well, of course, that meant that one of our guys on our crew
that's right.
didn't go on that fire. And he was the only one from our crew that didn't.
That's right.
And he was still in the firehouse.
Yes.
Just kind of looking, and everybody's like, why didn't you grab your gear and hop on?
I do remember that. Yeah.
And we still give him crap for missing that fire.
I forgot about that. I didn't really think about that for a while. That's good. Yeah. Nice.
All right, cool. So that's 2 fires. We get some good takeaways. You got a third one for us?
Yeah. Another one you were on was a basement fire. It was around dinner time. Call comes out, and it's funny how, they come out and you're like, this is on fire. The notes we're reading, heard some pop in the basement, open the door, black smoke coming up. And you're like, okay, that sounds good. Again, very close to the firehouse. And I think we turn into the block, and you could smell it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could smell it. You're like, this is on fire. And get our water supply set and give, the on scene, get out, tell the firefighter, hey, pull the 200. And he does that, and met by the occupants, and talked to them real quick. And I was like, what happened? And basically the same thing that was in the notes. Like, heard a pop, opened the door to see what was going on in the basement. Black smoke came up, and, is there anyone else inside? No, all that kind of stuff. Relay all that in my situation report. At the same time, there's another company on the Charlie side, and I guess they say there's no access to the basement aside from a small basement window. So everyone should know the best option for a basement fire is to try to enter at ground level. So if you have, a little grade difference and it's a walkout basement, or it's like a, walk down set of steps through a door, that's what we want to do. Well, option wasn't available. So the guy flakes the line out, and we hadn't gotten really in the weeds about what our expectations were with flaking the line out. And I don't think we solidified that yet. So the line, it's a townhouse, and it has these kind of steps that go at a 90-degree angle that at grade is a garage. And then there's steps leading up to basically the second floor. So the side alpha door is at the second floor level. And there's a car parked in the little driveway where the garage is. So there wasn't a lot of space. So the line gets flaked out, man, but it is all kind of between the car, on the steps, truck companies, getting ready to go in. We're on the steps. So there's a lot going on, a lot of crowding. I realized the line wasn't flaked out great. I start to flake it out more. But again, I let the momentum of the call determine what I'm going to do, which was bad, man. You can't, if you know better, you can't let the momentum of the call determine what you're going to do and, make decisions for you when you can make better decisions, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So what I should have done, this is one of the takeaways, is at that moment said stop. And I should have, the guy in the nozzle said, hey, we need to flake this out better. Take whatever time was necessary to get that line flaked out properly, instead of kind of on itself pile under, car wheels and stuff like that. Tires. Anyway, so it's almost completely blacked out on the second floor that we're entering on, going up the steps, and we just go with it. It gets charged, and we go in there. Brief discussion with the truck officer. I said, hey, man, you need to find the steps for us. I'm going to hang here. We're going to hang by just inside the front door until you can tell us exactly where they are. He finds them. He's like, hey, they're over here. Okay. So we start going down the steps. We're feeding line, and I guess pretty much the nozzleman makes it all the way down. And it's kind of one of these deals where you go into the townhouse, the steps, the door to the steps is on the left side, just under the steps to upstairs, which makes sense. And then you got to turn, make a U-turn, go down the steps, and then the steps go all the way down against the wall in the basement. And you got to make another U-turn to go to the back where the fire was, in the back of the basement. So there's a lot of, moving hose with all that to get it into position. And in the midst of this, the lineman, I think, was at the bottom of the steps. I'm kind of at the top working hose around the top portion of the steps. And the there's some communication about what the fire was. Like, I guess I'm trying to remember, what was it? Like I think the rescue squirted their can in through the window to try and knock down the fire a little, slow things down. And
it said it was
they thought it wasn't, it was like
a gas fed,
a gas fed or something.
Yeah, that was a
which is
radio.
weird. So it kind of just like, okay, what's going on? And then I remember the officer from the truck said something. Hey, did you hear that? And I was like, okay, yeah, well, we're committed, man. This is, I got a guy down here, you know, this is happening. So, in the midst of that, he starts to knock fire down and then says the line went limp. It's like going back going back years to like where I was, and I was the nozzle man. Line goes limp. And I remember, man, and at the same time, another company busts out the slider on the rear, which would be the floor we entered on, was just floor 2, because the grade was kind of weird. It went up kind of to the back. Mm-hmm. And so they bust the slider out. We lose water, and I'm like, oh, we're right in the middle of a flow path. This is really bad. And I remember, man, it was like that rush, you know, every once in a while, you get this rush, and it was just knowing how bad things were, where we lost water. We're not in a good spot at all. I got guys kind of spread out, moving hose line. And I just remember this feeling came over me where I was like, I wanted to leave. It's weird, man. It's just not that you're going to necessarily entertain that, but it's a feeling, man, where you're just like, we need to get out now. Mm-hmm. Like, we're not, it's not going to happen like that. So I remember I actually thought in my head, I actually said, calm down, make a radio transmission clearly. And I said, we've lost water. Basically we think we have some kinks in the line, something like that. We're going to need assistance, especially on the outside. So another company was doing a good job helping us, getting all that squared away for us. And then we finally got pressure back, and we made it to the back of the basement, and we put the fire out. But it was, again, it was one of those, man, I walked away from it like, what am I doing? I just obviously have that perspective from years ago. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense, man. Why am I doing this? And now I'm in a position to, it's all on me. I'm the officer. I'm ultimately responsible. I had the ability to say, stop, fix this, and I didn't. And that drove me nuts, man. It drove me nuts. And I remember I said to myself in my head after that, I was like, I never again am going to do that. If the line is not flaked out properly, I don't care what is going on. We are going to flake it out properly. 1, we're going to get really good at it. And then 2, if it's not the right way, we're going to stop and we're going to get it done the right way. We're not losing water again because a line was improperly flaked out. And it was my fault, man. It was my fault because I didn't hammer those points home. I didn't say stop and get that fixed. And it drove me nuts, but it drove me nuts to kind of enforce that in my head to make sure that we're really, really good at that. I think it's probably obvious, I guess, the people that work with us were obsessed with that.
Yeah.
I think. But yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. It was, again, use open space. We didn't use open space. There was a sidewalk that ran, of course, parallel to the townhouses. We could have flaked the line out there. Why didn't we? I don't know. Because we wanted to get the line close. We had to get the nozzle close to the door. We talked about before. Did we really gain anything? No, we didn't. And we lost water. So,
well, and again, we've seen these same problems and same results. And so I was, again, on the outside of that one, helping solve that situation outside with, as you said, another engine company that was doing a good job. And what ended up happening is, in order to make sense of all of that kinked hose that was in stairs and under cars, what do? We pulled it all out. we basically I remember one guy specifically heaving hose over the railing, because that was another thing that was kind of in the way. Those stairs had
the
railings and all that. So I remember him picking up hose and throwing it over the railing, and it all pretty much ended up out beyond where the driveway was, so that then we could feed it cleanly in, and we've said that, and I think the garden apartment episode where you do all this work to get it close to the door, charge it, and end up moving it all back out so that you can, file it in cleanly.
Silly, man. It's silly. So I don't know, man. Now some of my biggest mistakes, some of the dumbest stuff I've done. I tried to learn from it all. I mean, maybe it took a few times. And like I said before, you got to learn from other people's mistakes. There's stuff I've learned from other people. You need to learn from my mistakes. If you're listening, learn from my mistakes. Don't do these same things. And I don't know what it is. As I said before, I mean, sometimes you read something in a book and you're just like, yeah, that could happen, but it really doesn't seem. It's in a book. It's like it's in a movie. It's in a book. It's in a movie. It doesn't happen in real life. Guys talking to me in a podcast about what can happen. That's a podcast. That's not real life. It's real life. There's a reason someone wrote that down in a book, man, to help you. There's a reason I'm saying this. Learn from my mistakes. I mean, to me, the big takeaways are use your open space. Use your open space. Don't make the job harder by trying to deploy hose in cramped areas, stairs when you have open space that you can do it, or, areas that make more sense. Use open space. Get really good at deploying the line. As an officer, if you realize things are going in a bad direction, say stop and reset, man. I know the building's on fire. We screwed it up at step 1 where we couldn't deploy the line right. We're not going to just make that worse and keep going with that. We're going to fix it at step 2. We're not going to make it worse at step 2. We're going to fix it at step 2. So fix it at step 2 and stay calm. I mean, like I said, I had thought about, it's funny because I had thought about for a few years, what would I do when I just felt really, I don't know, man, not good about the situation, or really flustered, or just overwhelmed, whatever that is, whatever that feeling was. And I kept telling myself, I was like, you got to stay calm. You got to stay calm. And that was learning from other people that had taught me, that kind of kept saying that, like, you got to stay calm. That's the most important thing. Clearly communicate what you need if you're going to use the radio. And I remember, like, just probably took a second in my head to say, like, dude, this is it. You got to stay calm. You can't control anything else but a good radio transmission at this point, asking for help. That's all I could do. And I did the best I could. And I did okay with that, with all the other problems that I could have done better. So, that was a positive takeaway from some other stuff. But that's it, man. I guess learn from my mistakes. That's the whole point of this podcast. And it just clarified stuff for us as a company, I think helped us.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for being honest with your mistakes. I think it'd be hard to talk about it sometimes, the mistakes you've made, especially in cases like this, where if it gone another way, it could have been catastrophic, but yeah, I think that's a good amount of stuff to take away from this episode. We got a couple of tactical takeaways, a couple of sort of mental takeaways and everything. So thanks for that. And to our listeners, thanks for listening.
Yeah, and I guess I think we need to put a little plug in for our membership. Check that out. It's at firegroundcompany.com. We don't have anything like a Patreon or anything like that. There is behind the scenes expenses and costs, and we like doing this. Really want to help you guys, like we say over and over, so you can help us. It's check that out. It's not much. I think it's $8 right now. So that's a way to help us out. Plus you get a lot of cool stuff and stuff to help you. So if you just want to support us, you can, check it out and join, and you can get stuff that's going to help you on top of that. So it's a good deal. Like I said, we don't have a Patreon or anything like that. So go check that out at firegroundcompany.com. And thanks for stopping by. This is recording, right?
Yeah.
All right. So Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
What movie for you you think sums up his body of work? Like one movie.
Sums up
it's like the one movie that is Arnold, his essence.
That's a hard question because he kind of went through different phases. Because
He did.
He did some sort of comedy stuff.
Yeah.
And
Well, one of his highest grossing movies, I think, if I remember correctly, is Twins.
and that's a great movie.
It's a great movie. Yeah.
Yeah, he's actually a really good. All right, maybe he's not really good, but he's.
You're going to say really good actor?
No. I was going to say a really good comedic actor.
He plays the same
What I
character
mean to
every
say is
movie.
he's funny, you know.
Yeah, because he doesn't take himself seriously. It's the same thing.
You know what? And that's what it is. He's like he knows what it is.
Yes.
And then he like doubles down on
he
that.
embraces it.
And
yes.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But he's also been, I mean, obviously Terminator,
Yeah.
you know, that is.
What about top 3? Could we do top 3? That makes it a little easier. Give me the top 3 movies, because he's done a ton of movies that for you are the essence of Arnold.
I mean, Commando it's got to be in there. That was what my gut said. You know what? I don't need 3. That's it. It's Commando, and I'll tell you why. Because it is gratuitous action and violence. It is gratuitous muscle shots, and there's a lot of really funny one-liners in it.
Yes.
But that's it. That's my answer.
Okay.
My first exposure to Arnold was Terminator,
Okay.
and then I saw Commando. But
I may have been Predator, like the first time I saw him.
shoot, I forgot about Predator.
If I had to say my top 3 that really are him, it would be Predator would be another one, because that's more of a serious action movie, you know, even though it has an alien. It's whatever. It's a serious action movie. And it's awesome. Again, it's all the same reasons. There's so many cool things in it. And the other one would be True Lies. That's action, but it's more comedic.
So, all right. You stole my thunder, because my next thing was going to say,
I like this.
while I think Commando probably to me represents what Arnold is, like if there was somebody, you know, that came to this planet and didn't know who Arnold Schwarzenegger was, and I had to sum him up, I'd probably put Commando on. But my personal favorite Arnold movie is probably True Lies.
Really? Okay. And then your favorite Christmas Arnold movie? Obviously, there's only one, so Jingle All the Way.
Jingle
right?
All the Way, and that is actually one of my favorite Christmas movies, and it's a sleeper. And
It is a sleeper.
It is so stupid. I mean, if you want to see the epitome of somebody cashing in on a brand, that's it. It was like somebody in some big, you know, a studio office somewhere was like, I got an idea. Let's put Arnold Schwarzenegger in a Christmas movie. And they really didn't think too much beyond that. Anyway, if you've seen it, you know. If you haven't seen it, next holiday season, I highly recommend watching Jingle.
True Lies, Commando. A lot of people haven't seen Commando. Predator, probably.
See Commando, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all these people that were like born in 2025, all these guys at the Firehouse, they need to see.
Do you think those guys would
appreciate it?
Yeah, is that universal? Is that something that just resonates with dudes, or is it because
I don't know.
it reminds us of how good that time period was?
I don't know. They need it was good. I liked it at the time. I like it now. I don't know. They need to watch it and help purge their softness from their bodies. So
No, I
I'll just
definitely
leave it at that.
Yeah. You know what? I'm not going to say anymore. Let's leave it at that.
Yep.